Imagine you've just taken control of a 300-room hotel. You have the building, you have the rooms, you have the lobby, restaurant, pool, parking lot, and hundreds of beds ready for guests. It sounds like a straightforward business. Get people to stay in the rooms, collect the nightly rate, and repeat the process tomorrow. But there's a problem. Your hotel keeps spending money whether anyone checks in or not. The lights stay on, the air conditioning keeps running, employees still have to be paid. The building still needs security, insurance, maintenance, cleaning, and financing. And every night, you have 300 pieces of inventory that expire at sunrise. If 50 rooms remain empty tonight, you can't sell those 50 nights tomorrow. They're gone. That's why hotel owners aren't simply trying to get more guests. They're trying to solve a much harder equation. How do you keep an extremely expensive building generating enough revenue every single day to cover its costs and still produce a profit? And that question takes us far beyond the room rate you see on a booking website. Because behind one hotel room is an entire business involving real estate, financing, employees, technology, food, events, pricing, travel platforms, and several other revenue streams. So before we talk about how much a hotel can make, let's find out what it actually takes to build one. Now let's go back to the beginning, the land. Because in the hotel business, location isn't just a convenience. It can determine the entire economics of the property. A hotel beside a major airport is chasing a very different customer from a resort sitting on a beach. A property next to a convention center can depend heavily on conferences and business travelers. A hotel beside a highway may rely on road trippers and families. And a downtown property may compete for business travelers, tourists, events, and weekend visitors at the same time. So the owner isn't simply asking, where can I buy cheap land? The better question is, where are people already going to need a place to stay? That's a completely different way of thinking about real estate. Because you can build a beautiful hotel with incredible rooms, impressive restaurants, and expensive furniture. But if the demand isn't there, none of it matters. And once you've secured the right location, the spending has only begun. A hotel requires an enormous amount of capital before its first guest ever walks through the front door. You need the building itself, hundreds of rooms, bathrooms, elevators, hallways, heating and cooling, plumbing, electrical systems, fire protection, security, furniture, beds, technology, kitchens, laundry facilities, parking, and depending on the property, restaurants, conference spaces, gyms, pools, spas, and other amenities. You're not simply building a place for people to sleep. You're building an entire operating machine. And that machine has to start producing revenue long before the owner has recovered the money invested in it. But building the hotel is only the first financial battle. Now you have hundreds of rooms sitting there, and you need to fill them. This is where hotel pricing becomes surprisingly complicated. Because a hotel doesn't have one price. The same room can sell for $120 on a quiet Tuesday, $180 on a normal weekend, and dramatically more when the city is hosting a major event. Why? Because the room itself hasn't changed. The demand has. Hotel owners are constantly trying to predict how many people will want a room on a particular night. If bookings are coming in slowly, prices can be reduced to attract more guests. If rooms are disappearing quickly, prices can rise because customers are willing to pay more. This is called dynamic pricing, and it's one of the most important tools in the hotel business. But there's a delicate balance. If you price too low, you might fill every room while giving away potential revenue. If you price too high, your rooms may sit empty. So the objective isn't necessarily to achieve 100% occupancy. It's to find the combination of occupancy and room rate that produces the strongest financial result. And that brings us to one of the most important numbers in hospitality: RevPAR, revenue per available room. Because a hotel owner doesn't just care about how much a sold room earns, they care about how much revenue the entire room inventory produces. Even the rooms that weren't sold. But here's where the room price can fool you. Let's say your hotel sells a room for $200. It looks like the hotel just made $200. But that isn't $200 of profit. Someone has to clean that room. Fresh towels and linens have to be supplied. The room needs electricity and water. The property needs heating or cooling. The booking may have come through a third-party travel platform that takes a commission. Credit card processing takes another slice. And the hotel still has employees, management, maintenance, insurance, property taxes, technology, and financing to pay for. So that $200 room rate can shrink surprisingly quickly before it becomes actual operating profit. And this is why hotel owners obsess over more than just occupancy. They have to understand the cost of serving each guest. Because getting another customer isn't automatically valuable if the cost of acquiring and servicing that customer consumes most of the revenue. But hotels have another advantage. Once the guest is already inside the property, the room isn't necessarily the only thing they can buy. And that's where the hotel business starts becoming much bigger than a room business. But here's where the hotel business starts getting much more interesting. The room isn't the only thing you're selling. Think about what happens after a guest checks in. They might need breakfast the next morning. They might order dinner. They might grab a coffee. They might park their car. They might book a meeting room. They might attend a wedding. They might use the spa. They might order room service. And suddenly, one customer who originally came to buy a bed for the night is generating revenue from several different parts of the property. This is extremely important because the hotel has already paid for the building. The kitchen is already there. The restaurant space is already there. The conference rooms are already there. The parking lot is already there. So the owner is looking for ways to make those expensive assets produce more revenue. And events can be particularly valuable. A wedding doesn't just bring one guest. It can bring dozens or even hundreds of people. They may book rooms. They may pay for food. They may rent event space. They may purchase drinks. And they may stay for an entire weekend. Now, the hotel isn't just selling accommodation. It's selling an entire experience from one property. But getting people into the hotel is only half the battle. The next challenge is getting them to come back. Because constantly paying to find new customers can become expensive. Hotels therefore spend enormous effort turning occasional guests into repeat customers. And one of the biggest tools for doing that is the loyalty program. A guest stays at the hotel, earns points, and those points can eventually become free nights, room upgrades, discounts, or other benefits. The guest gets a reason to return, and the hotel gets something even more valuable, a customer who already knows the property. They know the location, the rooms, the service, and the booking process. And if they're satisfied, they may choose the same hotel the next time they travel. But there's another important battle happening here. Who gets the booking? A guest can book directly with the hotel, or they can use a third-party travel platform. That distinction matters because third-party platforms can bring enormous amounts of traffic, but they also take a portion of the booking revenue. So hotels constantly try to move loyal customers toward direct bookings, because keeping the relationship directly with the customer can be far more valuable over time. And once a hotel has a strong base of repeat guests, business travelers, event customers, and corporate accounts, the economics become much more predictable. The hotel isn't starting from zero every morning. It has a customer base that can keep feeding the property. But there is another side of the hotel business that becomes painfully obvious when the economy turns against you. Your hotel doesn't stop costing money just because customers stop traveling. A recession can reduce business trips. Families may postpone vacations. Companies may cancel conferences. and suddenly occupancy starts falling. But the hotel's biggest bills don't fall at the same speed. The building still has debt attached to it. Employees still need to be paid. The property still needs electricity, heating and cooling, insurance, security, maintenance, and repairs. And that creates enormous pressure on the owner. This is why hotels are highly sensitive to occupancy. A small drop in occupancy can have a much larger impact on profit because many hotel expenses are fixed or semi-fixed. But there's an interesting twist. When new construction slows and travelers become more price sensitive, established hotels can sometimes survive by changing their strategy. They may target different customer segments, push promotions, focus on corporate accounts, increase food and beverage sales, host more events, or adjust room prices to protect occupancy. And the strongest operators don't wait for a downturn to start preparing. They build a business that can generate revenue from more than just overnight rooms. Because if rooms are your only source of income, an empty hotel becomes a very expensive problem. And then we reach the part that most people miss when they look at a hotel from the outside. Who actually owns the hotel? Because the name on the building doesn't necessarily mean that the same company owns the real estate. One company may own the property. Another company may operate the hotel. And a major hotel brand may simply provide the name, reservation system, loyalty program, marketing, and operating standards. This separation can completely change the economics. The property owner takes on the enormous investment in the building. The operator focuses on running the hotel. And the brand can earn fees from the relationship without necessarily owning every building carrying its name. That's one reason hotel chains can expand across cities and countries without purchasing every property themselves. And now the entire business model starts to make sense. The owner has a massive piece of real estate that needs to generate cash. The hotel operation turns that property into daily revenue. Rooms provide the foundation. Restaurants, events, parking, conferences, and other services increase the revenue generated by each guest. Loyalty programs bring customers back. Dynamic pricing tries to maximize every night's room inventory, and management and franchise structures allow the model to scale. So when you look at a hotel, don't just see a building full of rooms. You're looking at a real estate asset, a hospitality operation, a retail environment, an event venue, and a recurring customer business operating under one roof. And that's why the hotel business can look simple from the street while being extraordinarily complicated underneath. Because ultimately, the hotel isn't just selling a place to sleep, it's monetizing every square foot, every customer, and every night that the property has available. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more business and money stories. See you in the next video.